Now, do you want to tell us sort of where the journey of this film started? What was the conception for you as a screenplay?
So this was really rooted in our formative camp experience. We had a lot of fascination with storytelling, campfire stories, and the family at the center of the story is really evocative of a camp family we had when we were growing up.
And then also just infused with stuff that we watched when we were kids. 90s Nickelodeon, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, anthology shows, and the horror eye off the blockbuster, and just kind of the feelings of it evokes. A little bit of forbidden stuff to kids, and trying to transfer that to being an adult.
Now, obviously, you've not seen kills on a summer camp as a kid, but what can you recall? Any ghost stories you were told that were part of legend at your summer camps?
That stuck out. Ghost stories specifically. I know there's one specific example of the kid with the tree. Do you want to tell that?
There's a moment in our movie where somebody gets tied to a tree and left there, and that happens at a summer camp with me. I won't say anymore, but maybe the parallels end there. But we always loved ghost stories as growing up as kids in general. Nothing. I don't know if there's anything that is camp.
It's campfire fodder, but I don't think we had an actual haunting at our camp or anything like that. But it was always something that was like in us. We wanted to like explore as if there were.
And what for you? There's a lot of practical effects in this film.
Yeah.
So do you want to sort of give us an example of one that was a particularly challenging one for you?
There's a makeup gag that happens after a particularly gruesome thing where our pal was in the chair for maybe 7 hours.
It was 7 hours.
So we did a quick thing with him, and then he went to the chair, shot the rest of the night, and then came out just as the sun was rising, and we shot his thing, in 10 minutes as birds were chirping. And the birds have digitally been erased from the sound effects.
Now, there's a lot of characters in this, obviously, because it's set in a camp. You've got campers, you've got counsellors. Now, from a writing point of view, what were the storytelling challenges to make sure that, everybody gets covered, as it were, as important to the story?
Well, we wanted it to be an ensemble piece through and through, and something we wanted to utilize was a sort of disclosure through different parts of the camp. Everybody gets a different piece of information until it converges at a certain point, and everything hits ahead.
And we do this conceit at the beginning where there's a mess hall scene, and we sort of get to know each character and existing dynamics and things like that to try to just establish a familiarity with everybody from the jump.
I was going to say, so any tips and tricks for sort of getting that coverage and in a film where you've got so many casts to cover?
I think having a space where people can convene at an earlier part and you can have a clarity on their relationships and everything. You need to find little moments.
We edit too, so we're very like, okay, we don't need the second half of this coverage. We're just going to get this piece right here. Knowing when to cut, being judicious with yourself. It's a skill. I think.
Yeah, and we had to cut a lot over the course of this. It was longer before we trimmed it down, and we lost some stuff, but it was important for the greater tapestry of the film.
Now, Erik, you also star in the film.
Yeah, I'm in the movie. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your character?
He's a very earnest, lovesick puppy who has been harboring a crush for an entire summer and perhaps every summer since he was a very young teenager, and it's now or never, and the stakes are very high. And he needs to confess his love to a girl, and, made a little bit more complicated by the fact that there might be a witch that's just been conjured.
And it's the last night of summer, so the stakes could never be higher.
Camp Briar book, summer 1987. Yeah.
What were some of the challenges for you in terms of recreating the 80s on film? Because obviously period means money usually, so this isn't a big budget movie. So what were you able to achieve with what you've got?
Existing locations that were really good, and a great production designer, and just a little bit of sleight of hand about where we were pointing the camera.
And costume designer as well. It was a great team effort where there were a lot of conversations in advance and everybody was on the same page. We ran on all cylinders. It was awesome.
Now these interview clips are going to go out after the film's shown. So let me ask you just one little spoiler thing, because your character is involved in a huge pivot for the film before the supernatural element really takes over, and it's a really good misdirect. So, there's a lot of comments being said there about sort of toxic masculinity, and you really hide it well in the way you introduce the character.
Do you want to take it?
That's my response.
There will definitely be conversations that people will want to have after the film, and we want to hear all of them.
But ultimately, we just wanted to set something up that was a coming-of-age movie for 25 minutes until a pivot point where we kind of betray the audience, and that was very important to us. And so,
and I think thematically what you're talking about really ties into that pivot we wanted, and sort of like accelerates as the film goes.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks for joining us on FrightFest TV.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good to meet you in the flesh.
Yes.
Good luck. Take care.